Shalom, shalom, shalom. Shalom. Check the sound. Shalom, shalom. There it is. All right. So with that, I'll start by saying Kol Haloyim, Yahweh, Ba'ashim Yom Shai, Ba'ashim Chachmadash, the honors to the apostles, bishops and elders of great Muslim that rule and teach well. Peace and shalom to the Akim out there in the elect, which the elect consists of, the men, women, and children selected to make it out of here from the coming nuclear destruction. All right. I'm the brother Zion Allah, the DC camp, coming at you with another video. This informational video, and it's inspired off the tonight's lesson that we went into as a camp. Pretty much every other Wednesday, we go into a particular reading of the scriptures. And this particular week, we went over Second Maccabees, the third, fourth, and fifth chapters. Okay. Now, within that, of course, you read that scripture and made them wear a hat. So I'm gonna get that. Right. So this is Second Maccabees 4 and verse. Oh, you know what? Let me read the title I got for it. I said the hat in Second Maccabees 4 and 12 and DeepSeek's analysis on the Greeks in John 12 and 20, Hellenized Jews. Okay, that's the full title. I'm gonna go into it now. Okay, when you go into Second Maccabees, you know this is during the time of the Greek period, during the time of the Maccabees, aka the Hasmonean dynasty. Okay, and I'm gonna read it right here where it said he made them wear a hat. This was during the time of Antiochus, aka Antiochus Epiphanes, that devil, when he put hell on our people. Okay, so this is Second Maccabees 4 and verse. I'll start at verse 7. But after the death of Seleucus, when Antiochus called Epiphanes took the kingdom, Jason, the brother of Onias, labored underhand to be high priest. All right. And that Antiochus Epiphanes is also Antiochus the fourth, promising unto the king by intercession 360 talents of silver, and of another revenue 80 talents. Beside this, verse 9, he promised to assign 150 more, if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise, which you know into the history. All right, when you go into history, that place of exercise was called a particular word. It was called a gym. Okay, in the Greek, it's gymnos, right? And it's funny because the brothers went into it and said, one brother said, didn't they train naked? Absolutely. All right, they was showing, their nakedness, i.e., rather having clothes that were not covering large portions of their bodies, which, a lot of Greek clothing did that, or they was butt-ass naked. Okay. Beside this, he promised to assign 150 more if he might. And I've, that point, I might add that I just brought out, give a special shout out to the brother Yeshaya in the camp, because he brought that out, which that is correct. When you notice the Greek attire, they had clothing that didn't always cover, large portions of their body, showing off their arms and stuff like that. You see, so it showed a lot of their nakedness. But a lot of times too, okay, they did actually be butt-ass naked. You look at a lot of the Greek statues, men butt-ass naked with the rod out, the whole nine. That's what they did. It's many pictures of that, right? And this is beside this, he promised to assign 150 more if he might have license to set him up a place for exercise and for the training up of youth in the fashions of the heathen. Okay, in the fashions or the likenesses of the heathen. Okay, and to write them of Jerusalem by the name of the Antiochians or the Antiochians. All right, I know Antioch is not a Antioch is not a favorite way of saying it, but a lot of them say Antiochus, not just Antiochus. A lot of it's pronounced Antiochus as well. So Antiochians. All right. It says, which when the king had granted, and he had gotten into his hand the rule, he forward brought his own nation to the Greekish fashion. Remember, training up the youth in the fashions of the heathen. And what particular Salakia fashion of the heathen it was? It was of the Greekish fashion. Greek-ish. All right. So we wasn't Greeks. Okay. So we went to the Greek-ish fashion. Okay. A lot of our you know how we say Jewish. All right. They're so-called Jews, they're Jewish. Well, like manner, we became Greek-ish by getting into heathen fashions, heathen ways. You know, dressing Greek, speaking Greek, completely acting like the Greek. So much so that a lot of our people actually worshipped the different gods of the Greeks. Okay, it says verse 11, and the royal privilege is granted of special favor to the Jews by the means of John, the father of Eupolemus, who went ambassador to Rome for amity and aid. He took away, in putting down the governments which were according to the law, he brought up new customs against the law. Verse 12, for he built gladly a place of exercise under the tower itself, and brought the chief young men under his subjection and made them wear a hat. Okay, that hat stuff goes back to the Greeks. And it's funny, you have a lot of Israelites in these different groups, a lot of different Israelites, period. Okay, you often see them wearing head coverings and a hat, especially when it comes to what? Teaching the word. Well, the scripture says we're supposed to be uncovered, especially a man. A man's supposed to have his head uncovered when praying or prophesying. All right. Remember, when you're discussing the scriptures, that is a form of prophesying. Okay. Especially, you can all of a sudden you can talk and go right into prophecy, and then remember the spirit of Yahweh Shai is the spirit of prophecy. All right. Speaking of the Lord is the spirit of prophecy. So when you go to deal with the Bible and speak on the Bible, you need to have your head uncovered. Okay. But you notice it says it made them wear a hat. Verse 13, now such was the height of Greek fashions, an increase of heathenish manners, through the exceeding profaneness of Jason, that ungodly wretch and no high priest. You always had our people that led our people to destruction because they sold out for some type of gain. All right, it's nothing new back then. It's nothing new today. And we believe, start with our apostles, bishops, and elders on down, we believe that a lot of different groups sold out. We believe a lot of groups took the bag, and it's ultimately to what? Down their nation, whether they know it or not. It's ultimately to put their nation down to a worse estate. All right, so going into the hat, it made them wear a hat, right? Look at this. I'm on DeepSeek again. So let me blow it up. I'm on DeepSeek again. And I put on there, what was the hat in 2nd Maccabees 4 and 12? If you don't know what DeepSeek is, I suggest you look it up. It's kind of like Chat GPT, okay? AI information gatherer, because all they do is gather information that's all across the web, all across the internet, and it puts up an answer quickly after its combined analysis, right? So it says in 2nd Maccabees 4 and 12, the hat or cap mentioned and part of a description of the Hellenizing reforms imposed by Jason, the high priest, during the time of Antiochus IV Epiphanes. These reforms were aimed at adopting Greek customs and culture, which were seen as a betrayal of Jewish traditions or Israelite traditions, okay, and religious practices. The specific reference to the hat likely refers to the Petassos. Okay, now let me get this right here. So we can get the pronunciation.
Petassus.
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 Petassus. You see, it says a broad-brimmed, low-crowned hat worn by ancient Greeks and Romans, especially the winged hat of Hermes. Petassus. All right. Look at that. See that? Petassus. And that's what it looked like. Yellow. See the different hats? They even put them on coins. Hermes. So that hat goes back to Hermes. All right. Look at that. Pegasus. All right. Pegasus is a broad brimmed hat of the Thessalian origin worn by ancient Greeks, Thracians, and Etruscans. Okay. Ancient Greeks, Thracians, and Etruscans, often in combination with the chlamys cape. Let me see. I would love to learn how to say that, just for edification's sake. You know, we always look into things, right? So, let me see.
Chlamys.
Chlamys. So, it's chlamys. I would have thought that. It looked kind of like it, but, you know, chlamys. I was a type of ancient Greek cloak. It was worn by men for military and hunting purposes during classical, Hellenistic, and later periods, okay? All right, so chlamys. It's a cloak worn by men for military and hunting purposes, all right? So, it says often in combination with the chlamys cape. It was made of wool, felt, leather, straw, or animal skin. Women's versions had a high crown, while those for men featured a lower crown. It was worn primarily by farmers, travelers, and hunters and was considered characteristic of rural people. As a winged hat, it became the symbol of Hermes, the Greek mythological messenger god. See, the Greek Hermes. All right, there goes this negative shit again. See, that's how they got down. All right, Hermes is the Olympic deity in ancient Greek religion and mythology, considered the herald of the gods. Okay, and herald deals with news. Okay, ranking between is an officer of arms, ranking between pursuivant and king of arms. The title is commonly applied more broadly to all officers of arms. So, officer of arms. All right, let's go back. Okay, so we know what type of hat this goes back to. It became the symbol of Hermes. All right, and that's what it looked like. Different types of this hat. You see, so let's go back to DeepSeek. It says the specific reference to the hat likely refers to Pegasus, a broad-brimmed hat worn by Greeks, particularly associated with Hermes, the messenger god. This hat symbolized Greek culture, Salakia. Tired, y'all. It don't matter. But the Spirit's on me to go into it. I wanted to go into it. The Spirit had me going into it. All right. It says this hat symbolized Greek culture and was adopted by Jewish youth. Okay. Israelite youth. Okay. There's no such thing as Jewish unless there's other people trying to act like us. Just like I mentioned the Hasmonean dynasty. You had the Herodian dynasty, okay, which their forefathers were forced into learning our customs. So they were so-called Jewish back then, Israelite-ish back then, but they wasn't Israelites. Okay, it was adopted by Jewish Israelite youth, right, who were influenced by Hellenistic practices. The verse highlights how the Jewish people, or the Israelites, under Jason's leadership, began to embrace Greek customs, including clothing, athletic competitions, and other cultural elements which were contrary to their Israelite identity. The broader context of this passage is the tension between Israelite tradition. When you see Jewish, think of Israelite tradition and Hellenistic influence, which ultimately led to the Maccabean revolt. And I put on there, right after, who are the Greeks in John 12 and 20, which we know who the Greeks are. The videos on this went to the Geneva Bible. So let's see what the Greeks are. So when you go to John 12 and 20, it says, Greeks seek Yahushai. It says, and there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. Now, what feast was this? You go to the beginning of the chapter, you know that this is during the time of what? the Passover. Then Yahushua 6 days before the Passover came to Bethany, where Lazarus was, which had been dead, whom he raised from the dead. Okay, this is 6 days before the Passover. So remember, this is one of the high holy feasts, right? That all of Israel comes back to the land of Jerusalem to worship and celebrate and to observe. Okay, it was a serious thing. So going back down, it says, and there were certain Greeks among them that came up to worship at the feast. Now, according to our laws, only the Israelites worship at the feast of the Passover, especially when you go into when it says the stranger. That stranger is talking about Israelites that are born outside of the land, and it says that. Okay, let's go to Exodus. Oops, didn't mean to put that. Exodus, the 12th chapter, right? You go all the way down. It talks about the feast of unleavened bread, right? And let's go further down. Ordinance of the Passover, right? Now it says, verse 43. All right, getting right into it. And Yahweh, by Shema Shai, said unto Moses and Aaron, this is the ordinance of the Passover. There shall no stranger eat thereof. See? So no stranger is supposed to eat thereof. Okay? Not supposed to eat thereof. Take part of it. But every man's servant that is bought for money, when thou hast circumcised him, then shall he eat thereof. Because that particular, all right, servant is an Israelite. Okay? You did have Israelite servants. Okay, but he notices it says, no stranger, period, shall eat thereof, period. All right, it says, a foreigner and an hired servant shall not eat thereof. Let's go into what this word is for foreigner. It's a tha, a wa, a sha, and a ba. Thawashab. Sojourner, stranger, foreigner. So you have strangers and you have sojourners, but this particular stranger and sojourner was not supposed to eat thereof or take part in it. Foreigner, inhabited, sojourner, stranger, right? So this is an actual heathen, right? Verse 46, in one house shall it be eaten, thou shalt not carry forth aught of the flesh abroad out of the house, neither shall ye break a bone thereof. All the congregation of Yasher Allah shall keep it, all Israel. And when a stranger shall sojourn, wait a minute, we just broke down that the word stranger meant sojourner. So what about this? It says, and when a stranger shall sojourn with thee, and will keep the Passover to the Lord, let all his males be circumcised, and then let him come near and keep it, and he shall be as one that is born in the land, for no uncircumcised person shall eat thereof. He shall be as one born in the land. Okay? Because you have ones that's born in the land, and you have ones that are born outside of the land. Verse 48, right? So we're going to go to that word stranger. That word stranger is not Thawashab, it's Gar. A temporary inhabitant and newcomer lacking inherited rights of foreigners in Israel, though conceded rights. Foreigners in Israel. Okay? These are Israelite foreigners. All right? Because only Israelites can keep the feast. We read a few scriptures on that. Verse 49, and this seals the deal. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you. One law. And the laws are given to who? The Israelites. So it doesn't make sense that if these were actual heathen, it wouldn't make sense that the laws would allow the heathen to partake in the Passover. But outside of that, they don't take part in any of the other laws. There's no requirement to put them under any of the other laws. Because there's one law you can think of right now that you can actually sell an animal that died of itself, that's this roadkill essentially. You can sell that to the heathen. All right, but you're not supposed to sell that to another Israelite. So wait a minute. So I can sell that to the heathen, aka the stranger, but I can't sell it to Israelites or give it to another Israelite. But at the same time, this stranger right here is allowed to take part of the Passover, but he's an actual heathen? No, 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 no. One law shall be to him that is homeborn, and unto the stranger that sojourneth among you, as one born in the land. So these were just Israelites that were born outside of the land, but they came back, all right, one of the 3 times, right, in Israel to keep a high holy day. And the Passover was one of them. Okay? One of the 3 high holy days that all Israel had to come back to Jerusalem to keep it. Right? So let's go back to put that. I can drop that. Okay, I can pretty much drop that. And now I want to go back to John 12th chapter. So John 12 and verse 20. And there were certain Greeks among them that came to worship before the feast. Greeks, the word Greeks is Hellen. A Greek either by nationality, whether a native of the mainland or of the Greek islands or colonies. In a wider sense, the name embraces all nations, not Jews, that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own. So wait a minute. So what happened to the Israelites that made the language, customs, and learning of the Greeks their own? They wasn't put in any category? You see? The primary reference is to a difference of religion and worship. Hellen, it says by extension, a Greek-speaking person, especially a non-Jew. Now, you had other nations that were Hellenized. That's there, of course. You had other nations that were around that were Hellenized, and they were, you could say Hellen, but there were Israelites that were also Hellenized. We just read it and brought his own nation to the what? The Greekish fashion. So they were Hellenized. So these people didn't put a third definition that should have said Hellenized Jews. See, and they're not going to do that. Okay, they don't go into the Apocrypha. They don't have the history. They can't do that. They don't have the spirit, right? Now let's go back to DeepSeek. It says in John 12 and 20, the Greeks mentioned are likely Greek-speaking Gentiles or Hellenized Jews who had come to Jerusalem for the Passover festival. These individuals were either, it says Gentile proselytes, which a newcomer to the faith is not an actual heathen. This Gentile would have to be Israelites that were in a Gentile state of mind, proselytes or God-fearers. It says non-Jews who were attracted to Judaism and worshiped the God of Israel, which non-Jews can't do that. It doesn't matter. Okay, they were given their own gods. It says they may have been in Jerusalem to observe the Passover or to seek spiritual truth. They can't observe the Passover. They can't if it was actual heathen. Right? Now the other answer they have is Hellenized Jews. Jews from the diaspora scattered Israelite communities outside Judea. See, that's where you get stranger. Okay, that was born outside of the land. It says who spoke Greek and were influenced by Greek culture. They may have been in Jerusalem for the pilgrimage feast. Why? Because they were Israelites. And it says the significance of their appearance in this passage is that they sought to see Yahushua saying, "Sir, we wish to see Yahushua," John 12 and 21. This event is often interpreted as symbolic of the gospel's expansion beyond the Jewish people, Israelite, to the Gentiles. Yahushua responds by speaking of his impending death and resurrection, emphasizing that his mission would bring salvation to all people. No, the scripture says for salvation is of the Jews. He even said that. Okay? Not just the Jews, because they don't understand who the Gentiles are. Okay? In the New Testament. John 12 and 23 through 24 and 32. This moment marks a turning point in John's gospel, foreshadowing the inclusion of the Gentiles in Yahweh's redemptive plan. Redemptive? If it was the other nations, when have they been marked as ones who fell away and needed to come back and needing to be redeemed? Where were the other nations that fell and are in need to be redeemed? The scriptures only speak of the Israelites. Okay. So I said, okay, all right, they're going to give their answer, right, based off a collective. But one of the answers they gave was this one. So based off of this one, they got it from somewhere, right? So I said, speak more on the Hellenized Jews in John 12 and 20. Now they just go straight into it. The Hellenized Jews mentioned in John 12 and 20 were Jews who lived in the diaspora, Israelite communities outside of Judea, and had adopted aspects of Greek language, culture, and customs due to the widespread influence of Hellenism following the conquest of Alexander the Great, 4th century BCE. These Jews were distinct from the more traditional Aramaic Hebrew speaking Jews of Judea, as they were deeply influenced by the Greco-Roman world in which they lived. Language. They primarily spoke Greek rather than Hebrew or Aramaic. This is why the Hebrew scriptures were translated into Greek, the Septuagint, or 70, which became the Bible for many Hellenized Jews. Cultural practices. They often adopted Greek, which, guess what? The Septuagint had the Apocrypha in it, by the way. See? A lot of people don't know that. It says they often adopted Greek customs such as dress, education, and participation in Greek civic life, while still maintaining their Israelite identity in religious practices. Okay? Religious identity. Despite their assimilation into Greek culture, many Hellenized Jews remained devout in their faith. They observed Israelite laws, celebrated festivals, and made pilgrimages to Jerusalem for major feasts like Passover, as seen in John 12 and 20, because those particular Greeks came to worship at the feast because they knew that they was Israelites. You know what they did? All right. They spoke Greek, but they didn't worship the other gods. Those were the Israelites that spoke Greek and lived amongst people that were Hellenized. But they themselves identified themselves as Israelites, but they spoke Greek. Diaspora communities. Hellenized Jews lived in cities throughout the Roman Empire, such as Alexandria, Antioch, Ephesus, and Rome. These communities were often large and influential, serving as bridges between Israelite and Gentile cultures. Okay? Let me see. Talks about the Passover. It talked about, sir, we wish to see Yahweh Shai again. Right? Where they get to saying all people, which we know that all people is talking about the Israelites. All right. Now I want to read this. Theological significance. The appearance of these Hellenized Jews in John's gospel symbolizes the breakdown of cultural and ethnic barriers throughout Yahushai's work. It points to the fulfillment of Yahweh's promise to Abraham that all nations will be blessed through his offspring. That all nations is talking about the Israelites, because just as Abraham was of the sons of God, but his forefathers went off and started worshiping other gods, and he was called to come back in faith, it's the same way the sons of God, aka the Israelites, were scattered abroad. And guess what? We've been called back to the Heavenly Father in faith. Even though our families and stuff like that are completely, once again, Hellenized. See? It's not talking about all nations being blessed as in the heathen. Okay? It's just the Israelites being scattered throughout all those nations will have the opportunity to come back to Yahweh Shemel Shai. All right, if they're called to do so. It says the Gospel of John, written in a Hellenistic context, often emphasizes that the universal aspect of Yahushai's mission, making the presence of these Hellenized Jews particularly meaningful. In summary, the Hellenized Jews in John 12 and 20 represent the broader Israelite world of the first century, shaped by Greek culture, yet still connected to their religious roots. Their desire to see Yahushua underscores the growing interest in his message and the eventual spread of Christianity to the Gentile world. Okay, not Christianity. Okay, it's the belief in Yahweh Shem Shai, is the belief in him. Okay, not Christianity as it is known today. Okay. All right. So I just wanted to bring that analysis from DeepSeek out, that even DeepSeek has the information of the Hellenized Jews. Why can't the anti-Christians, aka the so-called Christians today, get this? All the ones that come up against the Apocrypha being a part of the scriptures, all the ones that completely negate the Greek Empire, what happened? Why can't they get this? Where is this information coming from? Because it's coming from somewhere, because AI compiles it from the web. Where is it coming from? It's out there. Start with our apostles, bishops, and elders. We've always taught this, and it's in secular history as well. Okay? Israelites became Hellenized. Israelites spoke Greek. It got so severe that certain Israelites spoke Greek. They worshiped Greek gods. They did Greek customs. All right? But the Greeks in the New Testament were talking about the Israelites in one shape, form, or fashion. Okay? The ones that either were Hellenized and they spoke Greek, and you had the ones that were Hellen. All right, they became so much into the customs and ways of the heathen fashions that they pretty much lost their way of being an Israelite. So they were looked at like the heathen. They thought they were something different. Ain't no different today when we were once calling ourselves American, Black, African American. We didn't know that we were Israelites at all until we were called the same way. All right. So I just wanted to get that analysis, all right, for edification. Hope Akim and Akwathim out there have been edified. With that, I'll say call Haloyim, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Kakwadash, double honors to the apostles, bishops, and elders, a great millstone. Peace and shalom to the elect as always. Double shalom.